I lied about cheating on him. Part of me feels guilty, as if I manipulated him, but another part of me thinks he needed to experience even a piece of what I went through. So I, 26F, have been married to my husband, 30M, for 6 years. About 2 years into our marriage, I found out my husband had cheated on me with a high school friend that he met at one of his friend's wedding. I didn't go with him because it was a few days after the delivery of my first baby. He claimed it was just a one-time mistake, that he had a few drinks too many, and that he regretted it. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. At that time, our daughter was only 1, and I didn't want to break up our family over something he swore was a mistake. I forgave him, or at least I thought I did. I convinced myself that it was something I could be okay with because I was afraid to start over, but honestly I was too young and inexperienced to fully understand how deeply it had hurt me. 3 years into the marriage we had our second child, our son, who's now 3. Around that time I found out my husband didn't just cheat once. He had cheated multiple times with different women during the early years of our marriage. I found out when my Emil's birthday was coming up and I wanted some pictures of her for a collage that I wanted to make for her. I was scrolling through my husband's photos when I found screenshots of women's profile from dating apps. So I went through his message from years ago to find out that he had been cheating on me, even before the girl from the wedding. The texts were usually vague but enough to confirm my suspicions. I confronted him and at first he tried to deny it, but I had the proof. The message's dates exactly matched the periods he had reassured me that everything was good. He then gave up on the lie. When he finally confessed, he collapsed into sobs, gripping my hands, saying how much he hated himself for what he'd done, telling me how in those days, he had been foolish, immature, and afraid of losing me. He begged me not to leave him. He promised that he had changed. He said it was not something he had done since we had our son, and that his family meant the world. Admittedly, his apology really got to me. I hesitated when I saw how broken he looked. I couldn't determine if it was sincere regret, desperation, or guilt. I told him forgave him even though I never really did. The trust was broken, and the anger persisted despite my best efforts to move on. Since then he has been acting like the perfect husband, as if to compensate for what he did. I'll admit it felt good to be the center of his attention after so long, but for the last 2 years I have been nothing but tolerating him because when I look at him all I see is lies. Now getting to the title. Last weekend after putting the kids to sleep I decided to tell him that I had cheated on him. I didn't, but I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the pain and betrayal I've been carrying all these years. When I told him, he was crushed. His face went pale and he just kept saying, "No, you wouldn't. You couldn't." He begged me for details. When? Who? How could you do this to us? He couldn't believe that I had thrown away everything we'd been working to rebuild. He said he thought we were finally in a good place and this destroyed him. I told him, "I expect you to forgive me just like I forgave you." Now he's completely heartbroken, barely speaking to me, acting like he's the victim here. He says what I did is worse because we were finally getting better and now I've torn us apart. Part of me feels guilty, as if I manipulated him, but another part of me thinks he needed to experience even a piece of what I went through.
My brother and his wife think my girlfriend is cheating on me just because she has friends of the opposite sex and I gave them a shut-up call. Me, 35M, and my girlfriend, 31F, have been in a relationship for 7 years. Neither of us is much of a family person. We do not want and never wanted to have children. We have a civil union and don't care about marriage. Maybe one day we will get married on a whim, but it's not really a priority for us. We consider ourselves a two-person family. She is my best friend and the most important person in my life. We also work in a similar field. We are both researchers. We collaborate a lot, edit each other's articles, give each other feedback, etc. And as our work is also our greatest passion, we understand each other like no one else, and after 6 years, our daily conversations are still exciting, invigorating, and inspiring. I find her very beautiful and we have a great sex life, but our bond is based primarily on shared sensitivity and intellectual understanding. So other women do not arouse any interest in me, even when they are attractive. She says the same about other men. For that reason, we've never been jealous of each other. Sure, I've seen men trying to hit on her, just as I've been hit on by other women at times. But I can't imagine it bothering me since at the end of the day we are still going home together, talking for hours every day, etc. We have a lot of friends and friendships generally are very important to us. We are both close friends with both men and women and it has never been a problem in our relationship. I also have a younger brother, 33M, who has a wife and 2 kids. My brother and my sister-in-law are completely different people from me and my partner. They have different backgrounds, different views, different interests, and overall we don't have much in common. Regardless, we try to maintain a proper, civilized relationship, meeting once in a while for dinner and small talk, helping each other out when one of us needs a hand, etc. A week ago, my girlfriend went with her friend to his cousin's wedding. As I say, this is a completely natural thing for us. I know her friend. He's a great guy. His partner recently broke up with him, and he didn't want to go to the wedding alone because he doesn't know his extended family very well. My girlfriend asked me if it would be okay for me if she went with him. I said of course. I've scheduled a dinner arrangement with my brother and sister-in-law the same evening when my girlfriend was going out to the wedding. I was supposed to meet them for a long time, and I just happened to have free time. While I was at the dinner, my girlfriend texted me frequently, reporting on the amusing/awkward things happening at the wedding. Her friend's family is very strict and pretentious and it was showing. She sent me a couple videos that made me smile and chuckle a bit. My brother asked me what's going on and I said that sorry, I'm putting the phone down. It's just some funny videos from a wedding that my girlfriend has sent me. I absolutely did not expect my brother and sister-in-law to react to it as dramatically as they did. They began to say one by one that it was outrageous that my partner was at the wedding with another man because it means she's obviously cheating, that I had no respect for myself, that I was bringing shame to the whole family and by extension to them, and that if our parents found out it would be a disgrace. I told them that this is completely absurd, that if I don't have a problem with it and don't consider it a shame, then they and our parents should even less so. I also said that not more than 2 months ago I was on a 3-day hike with a female friend of mine. My partner didn't have a problem with it, on the contrary, she was glad I had someone to go with, because she hates hikes herself. It goes without saying that I obviously did not have sex with my friend during the trip, just as it is obvious to me that my girlfriend does not have sex with her friend at his cousin's wedding. I explained to my brother and his wife that we have a completely different approach to friendship and gender roles than they do, and that they don't have to share our opinions, but our relationship is solely our business. We said goodbye in a very tense atmosphere. I went home, and my girlfriend returned from the wedding a few hours later. The next day she showed me a dozen missed calls from my brother and his wife, as well as messages from them saying things like, "How are you not ashamed? You're destroying our family. My name doesn't deserve you. You should think about whether you're serious about being his partner," etc. Of course, they focus solely on her. The fact that I also have female friends completely fell out of their minds. I called my brother and angrily said that if they don't immediately stop and apologize to both me and my girlfriend, I'm not going to have any relationship with them beyond the most superficial. They took offense, and now my mother is urging me to let it go because my brother is my only sibling, and it hurts her to see her children fighting. My girlfriend says she doesn't hold a grudge, that's just the way they and my brother and sister-in-law are, and that we shouldn't be bothered by it. In a way, I think she's right, but few things annoy me as much as petty bourgeois pearl-clutching and people meddling in others' lives, and my brother and his wife embody both of these traits. Am I wrong here for canceling my plans to get engaged when I discovered my GF talking shit about me in old messages? I, 41M, have been with her, 33F, for 3 years, known her for 7, and we have a 2-year-old together. I was planning to propose, she knows but not the exact plans, and we have discussed having one more child. She has the BRCA gene, so we'll have to have a mastectomy/reconstruction, and we'll also have to have a hysterectomy too, hence the plans to have one more before that. I would say we have a great relationship before this, and tells me often what a great guy I am, and has said she wouldn't have anyone else to be the father of her kids. It's her birthday next month, so I wanted to look in her old phone for older pictures of her. I asked her, and without thinking, she said yes and opened the phone for me, and I looked. Fucking stupidly, I looked in her messages, and they were around the time we started dating, and I saw what she was saying about me to her bestie. Basically, she was saying how she's just split up with her ex and was crazy about him despite being an abusive twat, and that she was going on boring dates including with me. He was asking her what I'm like, and she was like, "He's nice but meh." He lolled and asked why, and she was like, "He's kind and gentle but too short, and looks a bit old, too many gray hairs in the beard," and also commented on my dad bod. He was all like, "Ah bitch, give him a second chance, so he's a bit short and fat. He's got to be better than that prick. Hopefully the worst he'll do is bore you to death, not beat you like the other one might have." She laughed and said like, "Yeah true, a second date won't hurt. Worst I can do is bin him off." I couldn't read any more after that. I just said, "Babe, what the fuck," and shown her. Her face dropped, realizing I suppose just what phone I was looking in. She was all mortified and tried to apologize, saying she can explain, and I just laughed saying something like sorry, don't want to, and just went out. She was messaging me to apologize, and I was ignoring it. When I came back, I just went to bed. She's tried to initiate sex to make up, and I literally shoved her off saying I'm not in the mood. That started her crying, and I just went into our daughter's room to sleep. She's asking me where we stand. I told her we're not getting engaged. I don't want to keep her from any younger, taller guys to marry and get her pregnant. I even said I'm considering staying elsewhere for a bit. She really cried harshly at that. I just feel so fucking sad and insulted. I've never had the highest self-esteem, but it's in the bin at the moment. Follow for update. Am I wrong here for yelling at my family to leave my daughter alone and stay away from us? I'm 42M, my daughter is 23F. I raised her as a single dad. For months ago my daughter got divorced. It was a shitty divorce. He broke her and it was a hard time for us, so I won't get into details. After her divorce, she moved back in our house. She got depressed, so I comfort her and hug her a lot. If she feels sad, I just hug her and tell her that she doesn't need to worry about anything as long as her father is alive. I cook for her and she cooks for me. We go out for dinner, hang around, and basically just spend time together. Now 3 days ago, my daughter told me that my parents and my siblings keep telling her to move out. At first they were polite, but recently they got aggressive, and they told her it's inappropriate for a grown daughter to live with her father and spend so much time together. I told her to calm down and I'll talk to them. I was so angry, I called my siblings to my parents' house. I said if they thought my daughter living with me is inappropriate, then they should have told me instead. Why did they have to go to my daughter and force her? She's already suffering enough, and I'm trying my best to take care of her. They said they just wanted my daughter to live on her own, and it's inappropriate that she's living with me for so long. I said it's none of your business. I don't ever want any of you near me or my daughter. The way you guys are thinking is so fucked up. I'm trying my best to help my daughter, and I won't let any of you screw it up for me and my daughter. I left and went home, and I asked my daughter to block everyone, for now. Now I'm getting tons of calls and texts from my parents and siblings. They are explaining themselves, but I'm ignoring them. Today even my aunt called me and said I should listen to what my parents and siblings are trying to say instead of cutting them off. My foster family of 11 years is kicking me out by the end of the week. They said fostering is a business and they stopped getting allowance. I have nowhere to go and I feel broken. I, 18M, was told earlier today that I need to pack up and leave by the end of the week. I still feel in shock. I was removed from my biological family when I was 7 due to issues with my parents. I was then placed in foster care and then matched with a couple who I will call the Peters. It's not their real name. No matter how much I actually want to blast their real info, I won't. The Peters were always really nice to me, and since I moved in when I was pretty young after a while, I started to consider them my parents. I called them mom and dad. Treated them as my parents. Treated their biological son as my brother. I wasn't their only foster child. They also have a 9-year-old boy who has lived with us for a little over a year. I was never adopted by them. I know why, because they live off the fostering allowance. Something that never really bothered me. They told me that it didn't matter and that legality didn't make us a family, which I believed. I went on their agency website earlier today, and I found out that they are getting paid at least £2,400 for me per month. Or at least they were. Since I turned 18, they stopped getting the allowance. However, they applied for a staying put arrangement for me, which meant they would continue getting paid something as they continue to support me and let me live with them. It wasn't as much. I think it was like £1,000 per month. They told me they had it approved until I was 21. So I thought I'd be able to stay at least until I finished uni. They sat me down today and told me I had to leave. They told me that fostering is a business and that they couldn't afford to keep me on just the stay put arrangement allowance. They told me I had until the end of the week. For days. How generous of them. They said they need my room because they want to get a new foster placement. They literally told me it's not personal. Like that makes me feel any fucking better. They said they would still consider me like a son, not their son anymore. Like a son. And that they want to keep in touch. What a joke. They choose to kick me out. An 18-year-old with no job. No income. No nothing. About to start university. Yet their bio son who is 25 gets to stay? So yeah, I guess fuck me, right? I'm just the one no one ever wanted. I guess I wasn't ever truly part of their family. I am not taking in my homophobic dad and laughing when I was asked. When I, 23M, was 16, I was outed by a guy I was seeing. Don't know why, just out of the blue one day some family members were messaged by him with some photos of us as proof. My dad flipped his shit. I didn't even get the feeling he would be homophobic till that moment since he was always a let-live kind of person. I was kicked out by him for being gay. That kicked off the split between mom and dad since mom was very supportive and ironically a pretty vocal ally before I see out. Guess dad never made a stink about that. Me and mom eventually found a place. My other siblings would still go to ours dad's every other week. Last year mom's rental she was in was being sold. I let her live rent-free in my place for a while till she found her own place. Dad heard about this not long ago from one of my siblings, 20F. Since then he's texting to stay and one of my siblings, the rest are smart enough not to touch this with a 10-foot pole, is even asking on his behalf. TBF my dad has been living in and out of men's shelters for the past few years since after mom left him he gambled everything away. Every time his sister asks for him to stay my reaction is always the same. A good laugh followed by get F-Gady. My mom is saying while it's okay to tell my dad to get F-Gady, that I'm being an a-hole saying it to my sister who loves her dad.